Our Recover Well program serves individuals in recovery or active addiction, and we provide behavioral and mental health services. We have a team of wellness coaches who meet each person where they are. They offer personalized support, promotes stability and long-term recovery.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance of Martin County. Beyond just providing insurance, they are dedicated to protecting our local families from difficult financial situations when life happens. We want to thank them for everything they do for our community and for supporting our mission to be a resource for youth workers and the families they serve. To learn more, please visit the team at your local Martin County office or call 606-298-7721.
Have you ever wondered what it looks like to truly help someone turn their life around? And not just survive, but thrive? Today's guest knows that journey well. He's dedicating his career to helping others overcome barriers and find real purpose. The best part? He's using a community-based approach. Do you know who our guest is today? Let's get into the episode and find out. Welcome to Me and Poverty, a podcast about breaking barriers, building bridges, and changing lives, one story at a time. Today's guest is someone very special to me. He is actually one of my childhood best friends, and we are now both serving back in our hometown. We came from almost similar backgrounds, and we grew up with a lot of struggles that come with being raised in remote central Appalachia. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's so positive, but there's some challenges as well. Very happy to have my friend on today. He is actually now the director of healthcare administration for Thrive Community Coalition in Inez, Kentucky. Today, we might just argue a little about who has the better jump shot, but that's okay. Without further ado, welcome to the show, my dear friend, Corey Cassell.
Joe, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. There will be some argument about some basketball today for sure.
I can respect it, man. I can respect it. Corey, I wanna lead off with the name of this podcast is obviously the same as my book, but Me and Poverty. Keeping that in mind, what would you say is your relationship to poverty?
Yeah, so growing up, my parents worked really hard to keep food on our table, clothes on our back. During that time, it seemed like everyone was struggling here in the area due to local jobs and opportunities. They started to disappear. And those early challenges really shaped my values and drive. And I learned the importance of perseverance and gratitude. And, those lessons continue to influence, every decision I make today. And from a business point of view, my past gives me a deeper understanding of people's struggles and passion for creating opportunities. And through my work, I'm able to help the younger generation to let them know that poverty doesn't have to define them, and instead it can be a source of strength and a reminder with hard work, you can change your story and build something greater.
You can look up the stats in the U.S. Census report and see very quickly that about a third of our families in Eastern Kentucky are still struggling with poverty. I often tell people, though, there's a level of resilience that gets built because of that poverty. And it's not always the worst thing in the world, but, it takes some work. It takes partnerships. It takes community, which I love the work that you all do at Thrive. You're kind of a lot of community-based approaches to helping people dig themselves out of poverty, right?
Yeah. So Thrive is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to transform communities through relationships that nurture faith-inspired hope and holistic wellness in individuals and families. And really, we carry that mission out through three really interconnected programs. The first program is our Recover Well program. Our Recover Well program serves individuals in recovery or active addiction, and we provide behavioral and mental health services. We have a team of wellness coaches who meet each person where they are. They offer personalized support that promotes stability and long-term recovery. Our second program, our Grow Well program, really focuses on the youth. Currently, we're delivering school-based programming that emphasizes mental health awareness, early intervention, and trauma-informed care. This program really equips young people with the tools and resilience they need to thrive emotionally, academically, and socially. And then finally, we have our Work Well program. And through our Work Well program, we partner with businesses to deliver employee assistance programs. And through these programs, we strengthen workplace wellness, support their team members, and create a more productive workforce. And so Thrive really collaborates with a lot of individuals and organizations who share a vision for our community and the transformation of our community. We have a saying, well, you know the saying, it really takes a village. And I really do believe that, to create lasting change, it really requires the collective effort, commitment, and compassion of an entire coalition working together to strengthen our community.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of your wellness coaches, and it's really cool to see local people being employed, right, and not having to travel far away to be able to provide and that sort of thing. So I'm very grateful for the work that you all are doing. So for our audience that don't know you personally, like I do, how did you get involved with Thrive, and is this type of work something that you've always wanted to do?
So Maddie, my daughter, was just born, and my wife Kristen and I were debating whether to stay in Martin County or move away to pursue additional opportunities with the previous position that I had at Coca-Cola. And we ultimately decided if we were going to stay, then we need to work towards making Martin County a better place for our daughter. And I wouldn't say that this is work I'd always knew I'd end up doing, but I've always felt drawn to helping people and building community in some way. And God really opened the door for me to do this work here and create a real difference in community and changing people's lives.
Yeah, how cool is it that you get to stay close to home? I know you were traveling quite a bit for Coca-Cola, not like cross country or anything, but on a daily basis. You were traveling quite a bit. And now I often see you when I'm on my morning walk/jog. I'm trying to get to more of a run eventually, but I'll see you and I'm like, holy, it's like a movie scene, like a Hallmark scene. I'm like, man, it's so good to be back home in my community now, and I get to see you just about every morning. So it's cool, man. It's too cool. You have seen a lot of the same struggles that I have being raised in Eastern Kentucky. There is so much good being raised here, and I thought it really did us a lot of justice and helped us a lot being raised here. But there are some challenges, just like living anywhere else, right? There's some poverty, there's addiction, mental illness, limited access to a lot of help. There's more help now than when we were kids. I will say that, thankfully. How has that shaped your approach in your daily work that you're doing?
So growing up around poverty, addiction, and just really a limited access to help gave me a deep understanding that you truly never know what someone is going through. It taught me to approach my role with empathy and have an open heart. And everyone's story is different. And often people are carrying burdens you can't see. That awareness shapes how I listen, serve, and connect with others. It really reminds me to lead with compassion and to see the person before the problem.
That's a very good way to put it. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Me and Poverty. I just wanted to take a quick second and tell you about our Season 2 sponsor, Appalachia Reach Out, or ARO for short. Founded in 1972, ARO is a ministry in Eastern Kentucky devoting their time and effort to being Christ's love in action. Based in Martin County, but also serving Perry County, Kentucky, and Scioto County, Ohio, ARO supports families by meeting basic needs through their food pantry, their thrift store, while also partnering in addiction recovery, education, and community development through their work and witness teams. Fun fact, we've even had Appalachia Reach Out's Executive Director, Dwayne Mills, on this podcast before. So please go check out that episode last season. I'm going to have a link to ARO's website in the description of this video. Guys, I'm sure they would love your support, whether that be financially or volunteering your time. With that being said, let's get back into the episode. If you had to sum up what Thrive is, we've got kind of the professional definition and we've communicated that today. But if you're talking to a middle schooler, which I know sometimes you all do, and early high school students, what would you tell them Thrive is in maybe one sentence?
I will quote our clinician, Kayla. She often says that her job is to help people live well. And I honestly think that's just a great way to summarize that.
Knowing Kayla a little bit, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that she cares a lot about the whole person. And so I see all of the community-based approaches to recovery and prevention that she's doing, even getting people to do mushroom hunts and educating, and just even those little things that add up, right? It's really cool to see. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Who's got the better jump shot, you or me?
I didn't come on the podcast to hurt your feelings, Joe. No, honestly,
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, honestly, you have a good mid range. I think you've got me there. I will say I think I got a better three ball, so maybe it's a tie for now.
I would agree. That's
So
fair.
yeah.
That's fair. And I'll be honest, man. I'm a little bigger than you, but I wish I could drive like you do. I wish I could get to the hoop, and I probably could if I would just work on my dribble a little more. But where I am bigger, I don't think many people could stop me. But I've never put it together, man. I've always admired that about you too. So
The grass is always greener. I always wish I had that size. So
sure. I like how we didn't meaningfully do it, but we're kind of matching today, man. Like you both got green on. So, Corey, why do you think early intervention is so important for our young people today?
early intervention and mental health support are really critical for students right now because so many young people are facing a lot of overwhelming pressures, socially, academically, emotionally. And when we identify challenges early and provide that caring support, we can help students build healthy coping skills before problems grow into bigger issues. And by reaching students early, we give them the tools to understand their emotions, how to ask for help, and know that they're not alone. And by doing that, we create a foundation for lifelong resilience and success.
Yeah, and you and I got to partner a couple weeks ago, and we participated in a program that you all had brought in a speaker, and she was phenomenal and worked really well with the high school students. And she was talking about this "you matter" concept, and I thought that was just phenomenal. And telling these kids early, hey, that they do matter, that their opinion matters, that their potential, I think, is a key way to put that as well. And telling them that as soon as possible, I think is the coolest thing ever. And I feel like we got a little bit of that when we were their age, 12 years ago, but nowhere near probably what we should have. What kind of training or support do schools receive from Thrive, Corey?
So Thrive provides schools with training and support focused on mental health awareness, early intervention, and trauma-informed care, also prevention. And our team equips educators and staff with the tools to recognize signs of stress, trauma, how to respond with empathy, and to know how to create a safe and supportive environment for the students. So we also offer ongoing coaching workshops and planning to help schools build a culture where both students and staff can grow well together.
That is a very phenomenal concept. It's simple, which is what I love the most about it, right? We're not trying to overcomplicate our efforts, our goals with these students. And you've got to make it easy for them to understand as well. So I think you all do a great job of that. So, Corey, you and your team, you've been in some of the school systems a bit now. What are some of the maybe funnier things you've heard, or maybe the most funniest lately that you've heard from a student? What's something funny?
So one of the funniest moments happened actually during the event that you referenced earlier. We had some students working in groups to share what they wanted to see happen in our community. And when I asked one of the boys how they thought they could start making those changes happen, they immediately said, "Let's start a riot." No, absolutely. And by the end of that conversation, the whole table was on board with the idea. We all had a good laugh, and it turned into a great teaching moment about channeling passion and energy into a more peaceful and positive range.
That's what I'm talking about. Thrive's just making a big difference, man. I like that. I'm not putting any thoughts in your head. I mean, if you do this, I might take a little credit for it, but if Thrive had a mascot for your Grow Well program for the school systems, what would that be, Corey?
This one might sound a little lame, but honestly, when it comes to mind, I would probably say a tree, right? Trees have strong roots. You can see steady growth. A tree reminds us that growth takes time, care, and connection. And just like in our community work, when we're rooted in strong relationships and have the support we need, we can all grow well together.
That's good. That's good, dude. That's solid. I like that. What are some barriers that you're still seeing in our communities, Corey? You and Thrive, you're really out there, and you're making a big difference. What are some of those barriers that you're still seeing that we're having to overcome in our community here in 2025?
One of the biggest barriers that I still see in our communities is stigma. Too often people struggling with addiction or mental health changes are judged instead of supported. And that shame keeps many from asking for help, even when they desperately need it.
Yeah. That's a very good point. It's a sad point, honestly, but a lot of truth to that. And when there's stigma attached to something, and our people feel that, and then they isolate, and then they're not going to be recovering well, right? So that's a very good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. If you could design, and maybe you are, Corey, maybe you've already done this. I haven't seen it if you have, but if you were to design a billboard for your Recover Well program, what would that sucker look like?
Yeah, so I would put this saying on the billboard: recovery isn't a weakness, it's courage.
That is, that kind of helps with the overcoming the stigma. That's pretty good, man. I like that. I don't know too much about this, so I'll be interested if this is a thing. But how does Thrive's employment assistant programs work? What are they? What are some of those benefits for the employee, the employer?
Thrive's employee assistance programs help local businesses by providing their teams with access to mental health support, counseling, and wellness resources. We partner with employers to create healthy, more supportive workplaces where employees feel valued and equipped to manage life's challenges. Through crisis intervention services and ongoing education, we help employees address personal and work-related stress before it affects their well-being or performance.
Now, does somebody have to be in recovery to participate in those programs, Corey? Do you know?
No, they do not.
What advice would you have for some young person that's just now getting into the workforce, Corey?
I tell them to give themselves grace and remember that it's okay not to have everything figured out right away. Life balance takes practice. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Be sure to set boundaries, take care of your mental health. There's a saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Surround yourself with people who support you, and don't measure your success by how busy you are. Growth happens one step at a time, and it's okay to slow down and breathe along the way.
Yeah, there's a few things that you just said that stick out to me, and even some of the people I've interviewed lately, and pouring from an empty cup. We're both men of faith, and in my church we often talk about you always need somebody pouring into you so that you can pour out to others, and so you can serve others. It's really hard to do that if your cup is empty. So that's a very good point that you're making, and I hope and pray that more people do focus on themselves earlier. And when I'm doing my mentor programs, I talk to these young men in the high schools, and I tell them the importance of making long-term investments in yourself. So that's not just like a 4-year education or a training program. There is a mental aspect of that as well, right? That's so important, and we can't overlook, because if you don't get it right early, it's hard to make up the difference later. I'm going to add, the older we get, kind of the more concrete our brain becomes, right? And it's hard to change it. So the earlier we can make a difference, the better, and you all are doing that. And we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but how does the work you're doing at Thrive kind of connect back to your early life and that sort of thing, Corey?
So I've seen firsthand what it's like to face challenges without knowing where to turn. The struggles I grew up around, poverty, addiction, and just limited access to resources, really shaped the way I see people and the importance of compassion. Now being with Thrive, I get to be a part of something that gives others the kind of support I know can change a life. Growing up in poverty makes it really personal for me because I've lived what so many of the people we serve are going through, and I want them to know they're not alone.
Yeah, there's comfort in community. That could be good or bad, right? And thankfully, you are helping pull people out of the fire, if you will, and you're kind of tipping the scales for the better, and that's really cool to see. So you're a young professional now, Corey, which is really, really weird for me to think about when we're considering where we both grew up and how goofy we were as kids and that sort of thing. As a young professional now, what is, and this is good for our teens to know, what is your go-to office snack?
So I wouldn't really call it a snack, but I always have it in the office, and that's chewing gum. I don't know why I can't live without it.
Yeah. I'll be honest, man. Growing up in poverty myself, I've got a section in my book that talks about poverty pains I grew up with and having poor health in a lot of different ways, physical, mental, even some spiritual. But my jaw teeth, they're all cavity filled because no one told me that I had to brush my teeth during the summer months. So I'm so sorry you probably smelled my breath while we were shooting hoops over the summer. But I say all that to say I'm also a big gum chewer, but I can't chew sugary gum because it hurts my jaw teeth so bad. And that's just another one of those poverty pains that no one really thinks about, but that comes along with poverty. So, Corey, when work gets a little heavy, maybe even sometimes discouraging, just like anybody's career, right? What keeps you going?
Yeah, when the work gets heavy or discouraging, I go back to my why, my purpose for doing this work, which is my daughter Maddie. She really reminds me why showing up matters, why hope matters, and why this work is worth it even in the hard days.
That's awesome to hear. And Corey, I know you had just such amazing, loving parents. I mean, buddy, they practically adopted me a lot of the times, and they've fed me. I've spent more time in the back of your dad and mom's car than I probably did my own family's car. So I'm so stinking grateful for having you all in my life. But man, I get to now be the dad I never had, right? And I think we all get to do that in some way. But it's really cool to see how we are now fathers in the same community. And we're getting to do things on a daily basis that are making a real impactful difference. When I have these young men come up to me after a mentor session, they've already got a kiddo of their own, and they're maybe they're headed down a path that's probably not the best one. Or you can tell with the prevention work we're doing and that sort of thing in the school systems, and we're talking to these young men and breaking those chains of bondage of poverty and helping change family trees for the better. And it's just really cool to see. I now know why you said Thrive's mascot would probably be a tree, because you're changing family trees. What is one truth or lesson that really keeps you grounded? So you know your why, that's important. What is that one truth that you're holding on to while you're doing the work you're doing, my friend?
I would say change takes time, but every small step matters. It's really easy to get caught up wanting to fix everything all at once. It's important to remember that helps. Remembering that helps me stay patient, stay present, and trust that even when I can't see the full impact right away, the work still matters.
Yeah, when you said that, I immediately thought about an old Christian skit that's on YouTube from the Skit Guys, and it's called God's Chisel. So in that, you've got small pieces that we all carry with us, maybe some baggage or sin or whatever. And we've got to allow God to just chip away slowly to change us into something better, right? I kind of view Thrive that way. You all are strategically picking ways in the community to make it better, and that's just super cool. When you think about the next generation, so those kids that you and I are serving, you in the Grow Well program, what gives you the most hope looking at that next generation, Corey?
This next generation, they're not afraid to talk about real things. They genuinely want to make the world a better place. And I see so many young people who care deeply, who show up for one another, and who are learning that vulnerability is strength. Their honesty, compassion, and willingness to grow remind me that the future is in good hands.
Yeah, compassion is a huge word that I kind of threw into my book. And, when you and I were younger, we almost got a little ridiculed if we were to be compassionate as men, right? And I'm very grateful. I'm very happy to see that stigma has gone away, and it's still there. It's lingering because we're still men and we're imperfect, right? These young men that we're influencing for the better. But there is more of an open door. Even the kids that are going to my church on a regular basis, and I'm teaching our teen Sunday school, and I help out with our youth on Wednesday nights. And these older guys come in, and they'll play ball that evening, and we'll do a lesson or whatever. And then as they leave, we do a rotation for who drives the bus. And so I'll drive the bus, and these teens that, man, they're the cool guys at school even. And as they're getting off the bus, they'll say, "We love you, Joe," or "We love you guys. Thank you for having us." And I'm like, man, where was this when we were young? And I don't feel like we got enough of that. And it's really cool. It is cool to see now that compassion's kind of playing a bigger role in our schools. This is for our adults that watch this, maybe somebody working in the school system, Corey. How can adults recognize when a young person needs help, but they're not screaming it from the rooftops? Like, they're not just proclaiming it to everybody. Do you know any signs there that should trigger someone's head? Hey, they need someone.
So sometimes the kids who need help the most are the ones who won't say it out loud. Adults can look for changes in behavior like withdrawal, sudden mood shifts, failing grades, or their kids losing interest in things that they used to enjoy. But more than anything, it's honestly just about paying attention and being present. When a young person feels seen and safe, they're more likely to open up. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and listen without judgment.
Yeah, that's a key thing, because oftentimes, especially us as parents, we overreact, man. When we hear bad news or fears, doubts, etc., we kind of take that burden on ourselves, and we think we're not doing enough and we need to do more. And especially as men, we're fixers, right? And we want to just fix, when sometimes it takes a pause and it says, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to walk long term with you guys. And what I heard at that event that I went to, and you all at Thrive, I heard long-term commitment, and that was very encouraging to me. And you could tell that you all had been forming relationships with some of these students, and I think that's what it's going to take, man. They're not looking for a quick fix. It's almost like LBJ back in 1964 and a war on poverty. That was a big nationwide thing, and sort of a lot of money got through at it, and people hoped for quick fixes. I think you and I are seeing it just didn't happen. That's not the solution, man. It takes that long term, I'm going to walk with you until things get better. And Thrive is getting to do that. And it's really cool, and you're bringing in those partners too. So what can churches, nonprofits, maybe some employers, schools maybe do to partner with Thrive?
So those types of organizations could refer individuals and families for wraparound support, or join our coalition to share any resources or ideas that they have.
Okay. So you actively invite these community members' opinions. Is that what I'm hearing, Corey?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you think is one of the most common ways that youth are misunderstood nowadays, Corey?
I think one of the most common things parents misunderstand about today's youth is that their world is very different from the one we grew up in. Young people today face constant pressure from social media, schools, and even themselves to be perfect or have it all figured out.
Yeah, that is a very fair statement. And it's almost like there's a constant mirror being held up to them of expectations, and they're constantly thinking, hey, am I meeting that? And I feel like there's a lot of anxiety tied to that. And when you and I, man, we would sweat it out in the ball gym, or we would sweat it out in the gym playing ball. And we didn't care who was watching. We didn't care. We just didn't care, but we were right on that verge of the iPhone coming out. And of course, you and I remember Razor and BlackBerry. They were a lot bigger back then. But I was talking to someone earlier in an interview, and they are a child therapist in the school systems. And they were talking about how, there's this anti-phone. We're anti-phone. Get rid of the phones. And I can understand that a little bit. You know, these kids, when they go home, they still have their phones. Like, it's all they're doing. They're scrolling. They're comparing themselves. Social media is just consuming them. And so when they're sitting in school, even if they don't have their phone out, that's all they're still thinking about. So I think it's more, hey, and I'm sorry to harper on social media, but I think it's maybe better to teach, hey, you're going to use it. We get it. So let's find healthier habits with that, right? And I could foresee maybe Thrive even doing something like that in the future, or partner with somebody that does. And so I think that's a very important thing to mention.
Yeah, just like with everything, I mean, everything in moderation, right? Let's limit our use.
Yeah, that's a key. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I recently just wrapped up a tour within our high schools regionally to Eastern Kentucky, Central Appalachia, and we talked heavily about having a trusted adult in your life. If every adult had to take a trusted adult quiz, what is maybe like one question would they probably fail?
Do you listen more than you talk?
Oh, buddy. Ouch. That one hit me, Corey. Jeez.
For sure. I mean, so often as adults, we want to give advice or try to fix things right away. We are. And what young people really need is someone who listens and really listens without judgment or interruption.
Yeah, and the old saying goes, God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth, and I think we would do well to remember that. How could workers, like youth workers, teachers, counselors, schools in general, how could they maybe get more involved with Thrive?
So they can get involved with Thrive just by connecting with our team to learn more about training opportunities, workshops, and community programs. We offer resources and support designed to help adults better understand and respond to mental health needs of our young people. And we also have a partner page on our website at www.thriveserves.com.
Corey, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Joe, it's been great to be on here with you. I love you, buddy, and we're going to have to do something again.
That's right. We love you too, man, and I'm so thankful for the role that you played in my life when I needed it most. And I talk about that, and if I didn't, I meant to write in your book something about that when I gave you a copy of my book. But we need to give people their flowers while they're here, right? And buddy, I'm always going to be grateful for the role that you've played in my life. And for anybody that watched this and you enjoyed what we talked about today, you enjoyed kind of an inside view of what being a director of healthcare administration really looks like, what all does that entail? And we may not have went in full detail of what you were looking for today, but I really wanted to focus on the community-based approach that Thrive is taking to helping our people. And it's so cool. It's so good to see. So if you like episodes like this, be sure to like and comment, subscribe to the channel or the podcast on Apple or Spotify. And remember, keep sharing stories, and see you in the next episode.